Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. It might be a Monday, but now it's a fun day because your favorite podcast is here. We're the podcast that every week we try to find one movie to define each state in the United States. It's sometimes just so hard, and this week I think is going to be one of those weeks because we did pretty well because the state we're trying to go after this week is Tennessee. We went pretty random, actually. It's going to be an interesting one. So, of course, before we get started, I've got to welcome my amazing co-host, Ryan Sarner. Welcome back to the show.
It's so great to be here, and this week allowed me to discover that I am very pro-stick and very anti-monkey.
Fuck them chimps. That's one way of putting it. It's hard out there for a pimp, though. I tell you that much.
It's hard out there for a chimp.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one right there.
It's hard out there for a chimp. Okay, that's it. That's the remix. I'm on board with that one. But we've also got our amazing co-host as well, Will Hirsch. Welcome back to the show, Will.
Thank you. I was going to make a joke about chimps and stuff, but now it totally took the wind out of my sails. Taking you to court, gonna get my Southern lawyer to just, ramble on for 90 minutes.
Suck it, Darwin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the sweatiest court in all of America.
Man. Just, my God. Yeah. Just absolute.
It was a pretty sweaty week, actually. These are very sweaty movies. By the way, my name is Ollie Pettigrew. I am also on this podcast. I love movies as much as these jokers. I used to host movie shows back in Asia. I also do videos as that Englishman in Texas. But movies are where I like to spend my time. Movies is how I relax. And getting into the meat of movies with these fellas is the highlight of my week. This week, guys, we had a real random selection of movies. Tennessee, you're a bold place. You're a sweaty place. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of sweating in my movie. There's a lot of sweating in Nick's movie, Ryan's movie. You look like a Nick.
Shout out to Nick.
Yeah. There's a phenomenal amount of sweating in Will's movie, which was crazy. How did you guys find this week?
My one word review for these movies this week: tedious. but I will commend us all for picking such wildly different films that were all very interesting, but also good in their own right. These are some good movies.
I find we've got, there are sometimes, like our first ever episode where we did California and all inadvertently chose LA-based crime heists. Exactly the same movies. Whereas this time we've got a movie biographical neo-noir Southsploitation movie in Walking Tall. We've got a 1960s legal drama that takes place entirely in court in black and white with Inherit the Wind, and the 2005 It's Hard Out There for a Pimp rap movie, Hustle and Flow. Will, why did you let's talk about your movie. Why did we go down this route?
Yeah. So looking through the list of movies in Tennessee, it stuck out to me. I'd seen it years and years ago and really liked it.
It is Inherit the Wind.
Inherit the Wind. Sorry. Yeah. Which is based on the famous Scopes monkey trial from I think 1924. But it's heavily fictionalized, or in terms of the proceedings and the character names are all changed. But I just always remember the acting being really good and just being the subject matter, which is a teacher teaches evolution in school and then gets arrested and it goes to trial for it. Subject matter being so relevant.
Yeah. That would never happen.
Yeah.
In fact, happens all the time.
It's the first thing I think I texted you of this movie is set 100 years ago and it's playing out exactly the same, but instead of in a courtroom, it's in school board meetings in Florida. In 100 years different, and it's still going. This movie stars some absolute legends of Hollywood. Spencer Tracy, brilliant. Wow.
Yeah.
Just putting on an acting masterclass. Is it Friedrich Marsh or Frederick Marsh? Do you know?
I think it's Frederick.
Yeah, we'll go with Frederick. pardon me, but yeah, Frederick Marsh and Dick York, Gene Kelly as well. Like, I was like, okay. And I remember when I mentioned, because I'd never heard of this movie ever, and I was kind of like telling Mrs. about our movies, and I said Inherit the Wind, and she goes, ooh, I've heard of that one. So it seems to be like, it's kind of because it was initially a play. And kind of like Will says, it's very much going up and telling the story of the 1925 Scopes Monkey trial, where essentially there had been a local law passed in Tennessee that said you could only teach what's in the Bible.
Yeah.
And if you try and do anything else, we'll burn you in effigy and hang you from a tree while singing Amen, Hallelujah. And I was like, wow.
Right.
But it's also really interesting because the two lead characters, again, they are fictionalized but based off historical characters. But the interesting thing about them is they are friends. They're just on either side of this issue, and it really does just it zips along. I remember at one point I'm like, okay, I paused the movie so I could go get a cup of tea or something. I was like, wow, we're 3/4 of the way through already. I feel like we just started, considering it takes place basically in a courtroom. I mean, like, Ryan, how did you feel about this one? Because I found the acting to be phenomenal.
I was gonna say this movie feels like something they would show you in school, but probably not given the subject matter. Like a 12 Angry Men, that kind of like legal courtroom drama that definitely felt like it was a play. When Will said that he was picking Inherit the Wind, my first thought was like, that sounds like something you'd say when you hold your little brother down and just fart on him, like, inherit the wind, you little fuck. Just rip ass. So that's all I could think about the entire time watching this movie. I'm like, when is someone going to inherit the wind?
That's in all the deleted scenes. Spencer Tracy just farting on Gene Kelly.
Ripping ass. I enjoyed this movie a lot. I thought, like I said, going into it, I'm like, oh no, I got to watch another old dusty black and white movie. You know, they make movies in color now, right?
What?
But I really did enjoy this movie a lot. I thought the acting was phenomenal. And I think I was saying on the text thread, you really do get an appreciation for these older films that a lot of the shots, the editing, like they're all really long cinematic takes. And it's not, they're not just like holding the camera still, like the camera's moving around this courtroom. Like it's really, really incredible stuff.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the thing is, that's why I think Will is such a great co-host because, I think like I've joked before that Ryan and I, we started in the 80s and just moved forwards and never looked back when it came.
I'll give Alien a pass for 79, but yeah, you're basically
right. And Star Wars, but Will keeps pushing us into the past for these movies, these classic movies, and so often you come out going, oh man, that movie was great. I mean, like apart from Shane, which was a good movie, but Shane,
it's such an iconic classic. You kind of,
I did want to choke that child to death, but apart from that, they've been really good. And this one was, I kind of know what you mean, Ryan. It's like I was sitting there going, man, nice camera placement. Ooh, good move. Like, all one take. Like that was a long, like just monologue and stuff like that. It really is. And that's the thing is that I've never really seen I've seen so few. I don't think I've ever seen a Spencer Tracy movie. Like Gene Kelly, I think it's Singing in the Rain. I think was the first one I ever saw. For me, the first character I recognized was the teacher, Dick York. I go, that's the guy from Bewitched.
Yep.
Yeah, that's that guy. I used to get him mixed up with Roddy McDowall. With Roddy McDowall from Planet of the Apes, because they look like a very similar. The first thing, not in the ape makeup.
Oh, right. But well, he did pop up later in that film. But the first thing I noticed was a subtle Hill Valley area placement.
Yeah,
yes. Hill Valley.
The whole opening. So the movie opens with the walking, and then he meets up, and they keep walking. And like, if you've ever been to Universal Studios, you're like, oh, there you go, we're Back to the Future. And then it's it's Wisteria Lane,
too, right? Yeah. It's so funny. I was thinking that because they still use that area. I think it popped up in, I might be misremembering, but I think Dr. Sleep also, and it's such an iconic like courtyard area where you just know where they can, but it's still
you can always
layout
see it.
Of it. Yeah, it's a square plot of grass with like fake buildings around it, and it works every time.
But no, it is like the most like identifiable like city block ever. Like the moment it pops up on screen, even if they've redressed it and they're like, hey, look, it's 1980s now. You're like, no, it's not. That's Hill Valley.
Yeah.
Whereas
there's a clock tower right there.
Yeah, it was very, very, very much shot on set as opposed to Ryan's movie. Which was shot like entirely. on location. I think
Yeah.
sponsored by the state of Tennessee, if I had to guess.
I think they used real hookers too.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it, man. Tell us about the movie.
Oh man, what can I say about this movie other than the fact that I watched it? I picked 1973's Walking Tall, starring our new favorite podcast host, Joe Don Baker.
Joe Don
Another
Baker.
JDB banger.
Yeah.
This movie was great. This is doing research when we like figure out what movies we're gonna pick. I remember seeing the remake with The Rock, which really has nothing to do with like any of this. Like it might be like lightly based in the premise, but I don't think
they
it's
relocated
similar.
to Washington and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they shot it all in like Vancouver.
Yeah, it was like
but because there's a history in this. Like they I think Tennessee famously wanted nothing to do with this movie, and then barring their oversight, realized how much money that could have brought into the community. So much so that for the sequels, they're like, no, do it here. And then they're like, we're just gonna shoot in Canada. Fuck you guys. But
yeah, it was
it's
$500,000 movie that went on to be a surprise hit and made 40 million in the 70s. That's like $11 billion.
That's $11 billion. Yes.
Yeah.
And
it's
they
enough
made
to buy the planet. Yeah.
And there's more of them. Like the way this film ended, I'm like, I gotta see the other two Walking Talls.
Yeah, Walking Taller and Walking Tallest, and look who's talling now.
Look who's talling. Yeah,
that's the
look
best
who's
one.
walking tall too. Still talking. Still walking. That's
it. This movie was violent.
Yeah, it's very 70s violent. Like
very 70s violent. The red, the blood. It was very claret, wasn't it? It was very. But there was 70s boobs. 70s violence, 70s car chase at the breakneck speed of about 23 miles an hour.
Yeah, we were talking like every scene of this felt very drawn out. Like this movie could have been a half hour shorter, but
No, you guys said that, and I wasn't. I went in expecting this. Okay, fine, here we go. And I didn't get that as much as you guys did. I was like, oh, it's not in any rush, but
no.
It does towards the end. I mean, I remember texting you guys, and it's like, there's no like flow to the movie, if you know what I mean. It doesn't flow.
Yeah.
It just goes scene with conversation, violence, scene with conversation, gunfight, scene with conversation, car chase, more violence.
Yeah.
Just flip the switch from here's some plot, here's some action, here's some tits, here's some plot, here's some action.
It's great. I love this like another genre of movies I like is like one man. This guy, we glazed over the plot, but this the character Buford Pusser.
Yeah,
I hope I'm saying that right, because they say it differently throughout the film, so you really don't know.
Everybody says it.
Pusser.
That's it. Yeah,
but
whatever.
It's based off the true story, and a lot of people know it. And it's of Sheriff Pusser whooping puss all over Tennessee. Basically, he walk softly and carry a big stick, and he took it as walk tall and beat the motherfuckers up with a stick. Because he goes up against the Dixie Mafia, and all it costs him is multiple knife wounds, a couple of gunshot wounds, a couple more gunshot wounds, and his wife's murder, as well as his dog's murder. The moral of the story is don't fuck with the Dixie Mafia.
Yeah. But I love this genre where this because he was a football player and he was the Marine. He was a football player. He was into wrestling.
Professional wrestler.
He comes home he just returns to his hometown to settle in with his family, buy a plot of land, which he gets the most insane plot of land for pennies on the dollar.
$6,000 down.
$6,000 for 2 fish ponds. Incredible plot of land. But then his mom is like, hey, if you notice some weird things going around this town, times have changed, don't do anything. And I'm like, he gonna but like one man has to clean up his whole town. Like I love this premise, and to a lesser extent, like if you want a better, I wish this would have been more of like a hobo with a shotgun type of movie for some reason. Just like really lean into the violence, but it was the 70s.
Very much a sort of wet dream movie for a lot of Americans. It's the way that they would like to deal with things. I want to be the law. I just want to just smash people over the head with a stick and tell them to stop doing it. Because you know what? I'm going to walk tall. And it's like pretty much what the entire movie is. Though I was expecting a bit more tall walking and ass whooping, but he's mostly getting his ass whooped. And then you get into the actual history and you realize a lot of the big plot twists that you're like, that's crazy, actually happened.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the actual history is pretty fucked up. It's like his wife. You know, I mean, like we're at this point. The movie's been going for at this point, you know, an hour and a half. And I remember again texting you guys. I'm just like, he's settling down with the kids in the background. I would have put money on that fucking little.
I thought the boat was gonna blow up.
Blowing up in the.
I was waiting for it.
Framed for it. It was built up. The kids are just having a good time. No problem. They're like, no. But the very next scene, we're gonna get his wife shot in the face, and I'm like, what the what? You know.
There's a lot of face shooting in this movie, like more than you'd expect. Like there were like 2 or 3 times where I was just like, "Good God!" Like it got me off guard.
And some pretty good like martial arts work, all things considered.
the opening fight scene. Yeah. Next time, guys, hire stunt professionals because it's like they were doing that kind of like look, I'm punching him. Look, I'm kicking him, and you could just see them pulling all of their kicks and punches because the framing. It was hilarious.
Yeah. No stunt work. Just give Joe Don 240s and let him like go on set. That's what you need for a good fight scene.
Pretty much, and I'm here for it. But we got one other movie on the list. It's a movie that I had only ever heard about, you know, and I had wanted to watch it. I thought, okay, let's do it. Like it's bringing a different flavor, you know, compared to the other movies. I went with 2005's Hustle and Flow with Terrence Howard. So I had a very busy week this week. I was in LA. Will came out and saw Will in person for the first time in 2.5 years, I think.
Yeah, forever.
Which was great, but so I had to
never again.
Yeah.
He was like, that's enough.
But like, so I came back and I just watched them all back to back. So my whole Friday was watching these movies, and I started with Inherit the Wind because I thought it would be a slog. It was not. Went into Walking Tall, excited to text you guys, and it was exactly like you guys expected. And then finished off the evening with Hustle and Flow. And I have to be honest, it wasn't the movie I was expecting. This isn't a criticism movie, but I thought I was going into like more of a training day, more of a Boys in the Hood, something that felt kind of realistic. Not that this movie didn't feel realistic, but it was a little bit more movie than I was expecting, if that makes any sense to you guys.
I said it felt like a musical, but without any musical like dance numbers. Like it was very much an MTV movie. If they don't beat you over the head with that over the opening titles.
Yes, very much an MTV movie. Yeah, and that's kind of what surprised me. And I guess what I mean is because this movie Terrence Howard got nominated for Best Actor at the Oscars for this. And this movie actually won an Oscar for Best Original Song. It's hard out there.
Which is hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just
so funny to this day.
I remember it being performed. And then for those guys, and I remember it happening and people are like, 2 Chainz or whatever his name is, 1 Oscar. Martin Scorsese, 0 at the time.
Yeah.
Like Leonardo DiCaprio, 0 at the time.
The soundtrack of this movie is
Oscar.
I never watched this in 2005, but this movie, the soundtrack specifically is very much a product of its time. And Ollie and I were talking, I was like, the stakes of this movie could not be higher. And yet once the music is revealed to you, it's so jarring. They're like, he makes such a big deal, and it's like, that's the song? That's it? That's your 8 Mile?
I was okay with the song, with the flow, and then like, for me, and the big thing at the end, like this moment that's built up, and wait, it's being played on the radio. It's kind of like if you build up to the end of 8 Mile, but instead of there being just amazing rapping from Eminem, he just does the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. And everyone's fucking fist bumping.
Yeah. And that was the bit where I was like going, wait, go for the flow. That's the most interesting part. And it's like, no, stop that trick or whatever it is.
Yep.
It's like,
It's so, I was going to bring up the 8 Mile comparison, whereas like that song is all about like, you know,
struggles,
it's your one shot and you got to take it. It's like inspirational. This is like, hey man, being a pimp that sells other people for sex slavery, that's difficult. It's like, all right.
And it should be stated,
I don't know how inspirational this is.
He's not a great pimp. I mean, he's only got 2, 3 tricks tops.
He has 3, one of whom's 9 months pregnant.
Sure.
Another one who's just a bit mouthy, and then he's got the little blonde one that essentially is making. They are all like, yes, he's not a great pimp, because
he's a pimp with a heart of gold.
he can't even afford a microphone, and it's not even the pimp with a heart of gold. It's more like he's just a pimp. He also wants to rap, and here he's gonna. You know how he pays for that shit? By sex slavery.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Exactly. And then gets mad when she has an attitude about it. It's like you go have sex with the old guy for the microphone.
When you say it all out loud, it makes it really hard to root for him. And yet, as you're watching this, like that's what I was watching. I'm like, I don't want this person to succeed. Like,
that was my thing the entire movie. I'm like, I don't like this guy. I like everyone around him. I don't like him.
I like his hair.
Yes, he's in there.
Taking care of it.
The very first time, is with those curls, and I go, what the what? This is the hair choice we've chosen for the lead character of our movie.
And also, what's confusing? His name is DJ, but he's not a DJ, and it's not short for anything because that comes up later.
Yeah,
thanks, Ludacris. Yeah, Ludacris is great in this movie. Yeah.
And starring DJ Qualls, who is a DJ.
Yeah. That was the chain that Terrence Howard wears later on is actually DJ Qualls' personal collection.
He was like, wait, why are you walking off? Okay, I don't know.
You just have that on you all the time?
Just roll. Yeah. Let's keep rolling. Let's stick with Hustle and Flow. Because it was
this is what movies looked like in 2005.
Actually, let's get into that, because you texted me that I chatted with Ryan on the phone right after, and that was something you brought up. Was it's got that washed out, early 2000s. You've complained about it on the podcast before, and it does kind of it's almost so low res that you've got noise in the shots. You know
it's very very digital, very high contrast, very oversaturated, and it kind of works for the setting because you want this like very heightened feeling where it feels hot, And I think that's really captured in this because there's a point where he doesn't have AC in his car, and his lady friend is complaining about it. And
I love lady friend. His bitch.
Shit.
Yeah.
But it's like it's very much like, what I said to Ryan. Will, was like, I said it kind of gave me the way it's shot, not the movie, but the Blue Bayou, which we did for Louisiana, right? But it's that, the New Orleans set. It was, it had that kind of documentary feel. Yeah. And this movie doesn't try to put any glamour into this movie. It's very much about Memphis. It's very much about what it's like just being in Memphis, living on the street. And it's, you've got that sense of kind of what Ryan's saying about the heat. Like, I remember when Terrence Howard's character bumps into and meets Anthony Anderson. Love the guy. And he's always got a towel on him, and they're just de-sweating in the middle of the scene, you know what I mean, while having a chat. And it's like, man, it does feel I feel like I'm there, I guess is what I'm doing.
In the convenience store you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's an especially sweaty scene because that's right after the fact that you find out he doesn't have air conditioning in his car.
That's when his lady friend, Statute, is then sitting on the freezer sucking a lollipop, and I was like, she's just literally calling her cooch down.
But whomst among us hasn't done that on a hot day?
God, she is so fucking filthy in this movie. Just like filthy looking. Just goddamn.
I know.
And it was just Taryn Manning being herself.
Taryn Manning, she was also in 8 Mile. Actually, funny we mentioned that, but she's at Orange and the New Black.
Yeah.
As well. She was great. I mean, like, we've got.
She was. Let's. She's done some things.
Then we had Taraji P. Henderson, who is amazing anytime she shows up. I feel almost underused in this movie.
Yeah.
Very much.
Considering she's such a chameleon. She can play meek so well, and then she can play powerful at the same time. And in this she's so mousy in this movie. That she's so. I don't want to make too much noise.
That scene where they're like getting her vocal track down was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yes, I like that. Yeah. It's hard out there for Pimp. And then, like you said, DJ Qualls turns up, and I was like, if you had given me 1,000 guesses and given me $1 million as a prize, I never would have got that he was in this movie ever. And I do like that they do that when it's ever like I do like it. when you've got a story that tells the story of Black America or something like that. You know, when you get into, instead of it just being the traditional, just white, straight, blah blah blah. That's why I wanted to pick this movie and get something in there. I do like that movies will also just find the whitest human being to be token white guy. I love token white guy in movies like this, and DJ Qualls is so token white.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's just stamped.
My God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually had. He's good. He's good.
He's always good as like a supporting kind of to round out, you know, your crew. You got Terrence Howard, DJ Qualls, Anthony Anderson. That's a power trio right there.
It worked though.
Yeah.
I like Anthony Anderson. We had him on the podcast before. I was laughing all through the scene where I actually laughed quite a bit in this movie. And I think it's played for laughs in places. But the bit where he's having dinner with his wife and they sit down and he says grace and then she immediately goes, "Let me tell you about this bitch," and just like, well, no, but like she just goes on about her day and he's just like, baby. Oh, and the whole time he's enjoying the meal. You see him have these moments with himself where he kind of rolls his eyes with satisfaction, and he's just making all the right noises for the wife to feel listened to. And it was played so well. It was played so well.
So much so that your wife looks over and realizes that that's what you've been doing.
Yeah, wait a minute,
motherfucker!
You son of a bitch.
I was expecting him to finish that scene and just drop the plate and be like, "I ate the whole plate." The whole plate. Favorite line from the first Transformers movie, stuck in my head forever. I don't know.
When he's
Anthony Anderson, eating the donut. I ate the whole plate.
Yeah, and then immediately starts flipping on everybody.
Yeah,
He's good.
Only good part of that whole movie, Anthony Anderson.
As is true of many movies. Wasn't he in Kangaroo Jack as well? Like, I want to...
As the kangaroo, yeah.
As the kangaroo.
This is another movie also that felt very much like a stage play, I thought. Like it had that kind of cadence to it. And it, like, from a story perspective, I could see it being like a Broadway play for some reason. I don't know why.
Off Broadway.
Yeah, no,
very, very off Broadway.
Yeah, it only had like, I thought about that like halfway through the movie where I'm like, we've only been in like 2 or 3 locations. Like we don't really leave his sweaty house like very much at all.
We got his sweaty house, his sweaty car, the sweaty church. What more do you want?
Yeah, if there's one thing we learned about Tennessee, it's Tennessee. Get air conditioning. Like you guys desperately need it.
Not since A Time to Kill, where we drenched.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
we were sopping wet. It's a full 5 McConaughey's of sweat in this one for sure.
So much.
I had to get out my mortuary fan to fan myself. I love that. I do have to get one of those.
That would be great. That'd be a good little thing to have on a wall. Actually, it's a very good callback. It's interesting that Terrence Howard was initially resisting sort of doing this role. He didn't want to be sort of typecast as a pimp, but then to prepare for his role, I love this. Terrence Howard interviewed 123 pimps, 78 prostitutes over 2.5 years. He lived with 4 different pimps, including a month-long stint in a Memphis brothel. Nice. Explain that.
But when I do it, yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think that's like somebody who's got a prostitute problem, and it's like, I'm research. I'm doing research for a role.
I'm researching bitches with both hands.
Why are you living with
interviewing?
Intense research.
Yeah. I'm interviewing prostitutes.
Yeah, interviewing prostitutes.
Yeah. I'm sorry, officer. I was just interviewing the prostitute.
You see, I'm an actor, so that is why I am in the back of this Volkswagen.
You'll love to see it.
Yeah. And it was like, what did you text her? And it was something like, because I've been saying it all morning, but it's like, take a shot every time somebody says, "Hey, man."
Hey, man.
Yeah. With a slight G on the end.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, let me tell you, man, is that I just want to get my flow down, man. I can't stop saying, "Hey, man."
Please don't.
Canceled. We're all canceled. We all said it. We're all canceled now.
Oh my God! So this is interesting. It's Craig Brewer. He's the director. He also directed "Dolomite Is My Name." That is a great movie.
That's a great one. Yeah, we should have watched that instead.
That is a great movie.
God.
He also did Coming to America 2, Black Snake Moan, which I haven't seen, but I heard interesting. So he's got a kind of vibe to him, Craig Brewer. But he added several touches from his personal life into the script. His wife worked in a strip club, then got pregnant, but he had to turn off the air conditioning to edit or the fuse would blow. And so he's like, the whole air conditioning sort of like sweaty vibe is just reflective of the director's life, and he wanted everybody else to feel like he did.
Method.
Yeah.
They should have had Method Man in this particular movie. So the plot of this movie is essentially that Terrence Howard's character DJ goes in. You know, he's like I said, he's a pretty shit pimp. He's got a couple of girls. Walks into a bar, and it was who was it? It was it's from South Park.
Oh, Isaac Hayes.
Yeah,
Chef.
Jeff from South Park. Hello there, children. In he comes and he goes, "Did I tell you about Ludacris?" Skinny Black, as Ludacris is playing, has gone off. He came up in the same sort of place. He came up around Terrence Howard. They didn't go to school together, but he was aware of him. And Skinny Black has gone platinum. And so it sort of comes out that DJ, our pimp with a heart of pimp, used to kind of like have some flow back in the day. And so he essentially has, and we know this because he spells it out, literally, that he's having a midlife crisis. And so this pimp decides to do something with his life, and that is to turn his pimp house into a recording studio and get a song played on the radio once credits at the end.
Yeah. Again, the stakes are insanely high for how shitty all of this is. And again, like once you go back and like you see all this and you hear the song and you're like, that's the banger? That's it?
It's hard out.
There's no way this is going to win an Academy Award. Were there no other songs that year?
That was the famous year where only one song was on the radio.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up. Let's see what else.
I do remember this movie did have like a banger of a soundtrack, but it's funny to me that. But again, it's a very much a product of its time, and I don't. The music's just not my cup of tea. But that song is fucking terrible.
So what do you think? I mean,
it's
like,
catchy as hell.
It was fun because it was interesting for us because we were kind of behind. And Ryan was texting, and Ryan had a very busy week this week, to the point I even called Ryan and go, "Buddy,
are you all right?" We did a mental health check-in.
I did a mental health check with Ryan, just like, "Yeah, buddy," because all of his reactions to the movies were shit, so shit. I fucking hate my life.
Rubbish.
Yeah.
To be fair, most weeks are like that.
This is just because, this is what the effect Joe Don Baker has on you. It's just, like, I hate everything.
I love that.
Hate everything with
that one I enjoyed. The more I thought about it, the more I enjoyed that insane movie. But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on this, Will? I thought because your entire breakdown on the text thread was just, I liked it. That was
it. I was trying to look for things to say, but honestly, it's like, it was a good movie. I did enjoy it. I did not like the main character. Like that was my biggest point of contention with the movie. Is I'm like, I'm sorry, I just can't have sympathy for a pimp. I don't care how hard it is out there for them. I wish it was harder. I don't like people who sell other people into sexual slavery. It's not my thing. I was watching the whole movie, and the whole thought I had was like, just make him just straight drug dealer.
Yeah.
That's fine. I can totally empathize and have sympathy for somebody like that. That's fine.
Drug dealing is fine, but sexual slavery is where I draw the line.
Yeah, and and he's selling weed. I'm like, dude, I'm for the future. That's not even illegal anymore. Like, totally.
2015 was a wild time. But for me, if this movie was shot with, let's say, Damon Wayans using the Major Payne voice, now you got me.
Well, now.
Got to be somebody needs some rapping.
It's hot out here for Pimp. Yeah. Wait a minute, we might be onto something.
Yeah. Hang on.
Okay, so it turns out.
I apologize to the Wayans. Let's get him on board. Let's get him on the phone.
We have to again apologize to the Wayans. So it turns out that in the 2006 Oscars, your initial point, Ryan, is not wrong. Were there any other songs? Not really. There were only 3 nominees. It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp. Then the other one was In the Deep, which was from Crash, many people's most undeserving winner of Oscars ever. And the last one was
the Cronenberg movie?
A Dolly Parton song called Traveling Through, which was in Transamerica. I didn't even remember that movie.
Oh, whoa. Yeah. I haven't thought about Transamerica in forever.
So neither has anybody else. So to be honest, it's Hard Out Here for a Pimp was pretty much it when it came down to it. So they were like, here,
That's so weird that there was only 3 though.
Yeah.
Like that's bizarre. But yeah, I ultimately I think the movie is fine. I think it's good. Yeah, Taraji P. Henson, like seeing that she didn't even get a nomination, I'm like, that's insane because she made me cry in this movie, like where she was like telling him like how much it meant to her that she was like on the song. I was just like, oh my god, why is the movie about her? She's incredible.
The sequel,
but yeah, but like, yeah, she's got such range. I think it was like within the same time frame she did Smoking Aces, where she's an assassin.
Right.
And
Oh yeah,
just
that's
like,
right. That's right.
my God, she just can do anything. And the fact that she wasn't even, I think it was my roommate and I actually looked it up. Rachel Weisz won for not English Patient, Constant Gardner.
Right.
Which in my mind might as well be the same movie. They sound like they'd be about the same thing.
They move at about the same speed.
Yeah. And I'm just like, nothing against her, but she's not anywhere near as good as Taraji P. Henson in this movie. Like,
no, so
not even close.
She's. Well, I mean, she's just one of those actresses that when she turns up, you're like, yes, I'm in for a ride. She's amazing. All right, so turns out that it's not Mang with a silent G. It's Mane, Mane. Okay, don't cheat. Okay, if you've looked this up, let me know. But how many times does DJ say the word Mang in this movie? Take a guess.
143.
I'm going to be conservative in my guess and say roughly around 10,000. I think that's the only thing he says.
Are we doing like the highest without going over?
Right. I see. Yeah, if we're going by come on down, the Price is Right rules, DJ says the word "mang" 221 times.
Fuck.
My
Good thing you didn't take a shot every time. You'd be fucking dead.
Yeah.
In a 2-hour movie, he says it 220 times. So essentially, it's like twice a minute for the entire movie.
It's basically that's his I am Groot. Is like it always has a different meaning. You just got to be around him long enough, and then you start picking it all up.
He manged so bruh could walk, or could fly, whatever.
And then DJ's gold watch. So it's a moment in the movies that this my daddy's watch. That is actually his late father's watch. It belonged to Craig Brewer, the director's late father. So there you go. So interesting little things. I thought like I sometimes, and this is why I don't watch trailers and stuff like that, is that I've made mistakes with movies by walking in, making an assumption. And I kind of did it about this movie. I walked in with an assumption about what the movie was. And I think that's a stupid way to go and watch a movie. Like thinking you know what the movie is before you turn up. Because I could watch it again, to be honest. Because I was sitting there the whole time, because I knew it got nominated for Oscars. And I knew Terrence Howard, and I was like I said, I was expecting prestige picture, whereas this movie it's a little bit more middle of the road. But again, I'm not trying to criticize this movie. I'm trying to say I walked in with the wrong.
It's a pretty unique film. I mean, structurally too. That's the thing. You go into this, you kind of know what to expect, but it really doesn't pan out the way you think it does. I mean, to a certain degree, I suppose it does. But by the end of this movie, I'm like, what are his goals? He just wants to get that. The whole thing is he just wants song on radio while he in prison, right?
Yeah, it's
a simple tale.
It's the same plot as Blues Brothers. Actually, it's a guy on a mission,
right?
To get something. Once he accomplishes it, he's in jail, and then song. So
it feels like Act 2 of a 3-act movie.
Yeah,
like we should have seen his growing up was him as a kid, and he's got some flow. And Act 2 is he's kind of lost his way as a pimp and starts recording, and then Act 3 is the success. Instead, kind of what we get is like the
somewhere in between, the wrong kid dies.
The wrong kid.
Yes, obviously, yes.
And it's like he has to have his moment.
My question is like, what is the timeline of all this ever established? Because it seems like it all happens within like a month.
That's what it seemed to me too.
Yeah,
as well.
Right?
It's so he bumps into Anthony Anderson, who's he'd always had kind of goals, but he's just basically making his money recording that incredible. Remember that singer, the bit that makes Terrence Howard like cry, that incredible singer when she's singing in church. Her voice was majestic. So he's like they end up working together. But yeah, it was it's it just never like gives you what you were thinking. I was waiting for the moment to happen, and when it did happen, the other thing was it was a throwaway comment Ryan made of he goes, "Oh, jarring music at times," and I was like, all right. And I'm watching the movie, and it's like it's the scene where he goes back and kisses Taraji P. Henderson, and the music, I was like,
oh yeah,
I was like, what are they doing? What's with the aggressive saxophone? Like,
God, there's an old Mr. Show bit where they have to train actors like how to kiss, and it's all the behind the scenes stuff, and they just walk up and like slather peanut butter all over their face, and that's how they get them to do it. And that's what this scene fucking felt like. And it went on for so
Very
long,
much.
and it was so graphic and so gross.
Oh God, yeah.
I was not a fan of that.
But it was the music as well. I was like, weird choice. There's a couple of times sometimes I laughed at this movie, unintentional comedy.
Yeah.
Of just like, what are they doing?
There's
strange
some
choice,
mid 2000s filmmaking choices that we've long since left behind, which is good, like that. I was just disappointed where, like, much like Hootie and the Blowfish, there is no hustle and flow. That's just, I was expecting, like, when is hustle and flow going to show up and train this guy? You know, so.
Ooh, real Black Hammer, White Lightning scenario. I like that.
But like, yeah, I guess this movie, it kind of, in the same way that Walking Tall does a little bit, it's kind of left me wanting more. And I know they were like, part of you will say, oh, you always leave the audience wanting more. I'm one of those people that's like, it's a movie, give me an ending. I hate a movie that thinks so highly of itself that it sets up its sequel already.
Yeah.
And doesn't give you just.
So you were hoping in the ending where he's in the prison, he goes into his cell because now the radio has played his song one time apparently, and the two security guards who are also rappers recognize him, hand him a demo tape, and he like, it's always good to have a dream, or he says something like that, some clever line, walks off, and then Nick Fury shows up.
We're putting together a rap squad.
Yeah, you're going to be in one of these movies. I'm not going to tell you which one. And then you're fucked.
Well, actually, that reminds me, because, the 99% of this movie takes place over a couple of weeks, which is I want to rap, let's rap. I do a rap. I get that rap out there. But then I think it jumps, because he goes to prison for jail for 9 months or something like that. And so I think what we got is that little flash of Taryn Manning. And tell her, you're in charge now. So she's putting on her business suit and doing business, and going to the different radio stations and getting that thing played. So I think what we've done is we've jumped months into the future, because it's got the credibility, he's got the reputation, because he's famously gone to jail for beating up Skinny Black and shooting his friend. So the credibility, like, again, that was a weird thing, is like, now he's a genuine rapper. Why? Because he committed a felony.
Right. Yeah, and that whole scene too, let's not, because the whole thing like leads up to this January 4th party in Isaac Hayes's bar.
July 4th,
I'm sorry. What did I say? January 4th?
His other holiday is January 6th.
Oh shit. Sorry, I just pre-ordered my new Trump sneakers and they're on their way.
Oh, okay.
January 6th. But he, like, Skinny Black comes into town and they have this great scene together. I thought was really good. But at the same time, I'm like, what is his goal? To like hand him this demo tape so that he then plays it? And I was like, okay, I can see where that's going. And that's not where it goes. Like, they just have this.
Yeah, he tries to finesse, he's like, you see that. And I like, again,
that scene where he's smoking though, like where he's like, I got it. And he's like, what happened to you, man? And like the record stops and his posse like is like, what'd you just say?
Yeah, that was a good scene, because it's basically it's his whole thing is like, I can pimp him. So he's basically trying to manipulate Ludacris into this situation. Which is ludicrous. He's kind of manipulating everybody because he's kind of oversold. He's kind of oversold his relationship with Ludacris, which doesn't exist. He just kind of like came up around him. But yeah, that was one of the best scenes, was when it's the record scratch moment of, he just goes, man, what happened to you? He's managed to finesse his way in, finesse his way to the table, finesses his moment there. That's what gets sort of Skinny Black on board. My whole thing is like, and you've got him where you want him. Don't give him the demo tape now. Give him the demo tape next time, when you hang out. Don't make it look like you finessed him. Because, and then the bummer is like, the
Yeah.
guy goes, fucking tape? Like, you never heard of CDs? Whereas now it's like, you never heard of thumb drives? But yeah, so Skinny Black goes and like, he's hammered drunk, throws his demo in the toilet. And so it was such a plot twist of like, wait a minute, what? Where Terrence Howard beats the shit out of Ludacris and then shoots his friend. And I go, well, this is not going to end well.
Well, he pulls the cassette tape out of the toilet, shoves it into Ludacris's mouth, which is,
wow.
Yeah. And there's a scene where he's like doing it and just Ludacris is just like, he just straight up opens his mouth. He's all about
jokes
it.
on you. I'm into this.
Yeah. I'll give Ludacris credit.
He's
great.
Pretty
good in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I like him. He's very funny in the Fast and Furious movies. I give him credit. But it's like, who'd have thought, like, Ludacris is like, oh, no, he turns up in movies now. That's what he does.
You mean the world's greatest hacker? Whatever his name is?
Also Super Spy as well. Like, those movies have gotten so out of control. It's kind of fun to go back and watch. When you watch the first Fast and Furious, and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is where we started? Point Break?
They're just stealing DVD players.
DVD
players, honestly, with the way physical media has gone, have it be the next one, DVD players are a rare commodity. Bring it full circle.
God, they're going to go all the way
DVD
back. Why haven't they done like, I guess, God forbid me for even saying these words out loud, but here it comes. They can take that Fast and Furious franchise and do it in like the old horse and carriage days. Just like the slow and laborious
wagons and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know.
Why not? They go back in time and they're like,
or the 50s where they're just running.
It's just slow and mediocre.
Yeah.
That's no, why haven't they done that actually? Because Lawless, that movie, that's kind of
right.
And then like that's the origins of NASCAR. That where is that sort of like Fast and Furious origins of NASCAR kind of like South exploitation movie? Oh, this is what we should do.
So Logan Lucky, basically.
Yeah, Logan Lucky / Walking Tall / Fast and Furious.
There we go. That's what everyone's been.
I don't know what response you're waiting for on that one.
Other than here's our money, green light.
Yeah, there we go. See, Will gets it. I'm looking for the green light. That's what I want. Well, I'm just looking at some of the interesting, originally titled Hook, Hustle, and Flow. So there would have been like,
God.
So you can see Robin Williams turning out as Peter Pan in this movie.
Yeah. Dustin
there
Hoffman,
we go.
I got a hooky.
Hook. Oh, that's a clunky title.
Yeah.
Which I think is why they changed it. Wait, this is great. When DJ Cole's character says DJ's necklace is nice and he wants one, it's a reference to his own name. So there you go. You've already called that joke.
Pretty low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
There's not. It's not a phenomenal amount to this movie. It's kind of like you can boil down the plot and the actual sort of movie into just 3 sentences, and it's like
hustle and flow.
Hustle and flow. It's not like Straight Outta Compton,
Right.
which is the movie I really enjoy, and it kind of brings in sort of this element of the people, the history, the place, the time, multiple songs and stuff like that, and you go on this journey. Whereas in this case, I go, okay, great, we've got one track. Where are the other ones? You know what I mean? And then when we do, like I said, and it builds up to that moment, like Ryan says, and it kind of just happens, as opposed to being like you watch 8 Mile because you just want to watch Eminem at the end. You just want to see him beat Eminem and absolutely go off on this guy, and it's brilliant. And this one is just kind of like, it just cuts to everybody. Says DJ Qualls stocking his sort of machines. He goes, I did this flow. And it's like,
I made this beat. It's terrible. It is terrible. But I know for them, it's such a huge deal getting it on the radio. And again, like,
and that will always be a big deal.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. It's so funny. Because like this songs for me were such a major disconnect given the subject matter of the film for some odd reason. I get that they work in the context of it at its time, but for me, hearing the songs for the first time, I was like, whoa. It was just really jarring.
I did the one little plot point that I did enjoy was the bit where Anthony Anderson's wife turns up to the pimp house with baked goods and sandwiches.
Yeah.
I just want to take part, and it's like I was expecting more problems there, but the fact that was actually very funny at that moment.
Yeah.
Which is kind
it had great moments. It's a very good movie. It's just not normally my cup of tea, and I hated the music.
Terrence Howard, after, by the way, as we covered, 2.5 years of research, 100 and whatever
Countless hoes.
Pimps and prostitutes, living for a month in a brothel. Terrence Howard was paid $12,000 to do this movie.
Wow.
So he probably
It's
lost
okay.
money on
He
all
had
the
Iron Man
prostitutes.
2 coming up, so
He had that.
he was set, baby.
MCU payday, baby. Next time, baby. Next time I'm going to be played by somebody else.
What if? Oh, I was gonna say, what if?
He comes
they
back as
recast
Kang.
Kang? Yes,
Yeah.
That would be good.
make it happen.
Because I think it was a comic because he did get nominated for an Oscar for this movie. Then he was like, he is in Iron Man a couple of years later, and like if
That was
that
2008, right?
yeah, I think around then because that's when my son was born. And then like he didn't get paid very much money for that either. I think he paid a few $100,000. I say that, but when it came for the sequel, he was like, all right, I want a proper payday. And he kind of they were like, no. And it's such a shame because he was great as Rhodey. I love Don Cheadle as Rhodey too. But like, because no one knew what the MCU was at the time, and they were such a brand new studio and it was kind of a shame that they replaced him. But, it's like, had you stuck around, because you've got, Robert Downey Jr. making $65 million on the back end.
Yeah.
Like clearing $100 million for Endgame.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
That had he just stuck around for the iconic Iron Man 2, the MCU movie we all talk about.
The best one since Iron Man 3, I say.
Starring Elon Musk.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a twat. Would you recommend this movie to our listeners and viewers? Is this something like, would you? Because I'm kind of middling about it. I'm like, I enjoyed it. At times, I laughed at it. But I could name, and I've named 2 or 3 other movies in the genre that I think are better.
Yeah, I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it unless you're doing a geographical based podcast. But it's a perfectly watchable movie. If you happen to catch it, if it's on it, something. I mean, it's enjoyable, but it's not gonna blow your socks off. It's very much a 2005 movie, so I can't it's not a timeless classic. It's very much a capsule of that period, I think.
Well, yeah. What would you say, Will?
I enjoyed the movie, but I think the poster is better than the movie.
Yeah,
that's kind of my feeling on it.
Good poster.
It is a good poster. But yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. Like, it's not gonna change your life watching it, but I didn't have a bad time watching it. Right. I just, the biggest thing that stuck with me is I really wish the main character wasn't a pimp. It makes it extremely hard to root for.
He's very.
But it's also hard. It's hard out here for a drug dealer.
It's a little wordier, I'll give you that. But
what if he was a chimp?
Whoa! It's a sequel to Dunstan Checks In.
Yes, obviously.
Every which way but loose.
Dunstan starts pimping. Yeah.
So
a chimp pimp. Yeah.
Hustle and Flow is a movie I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make it a bad movie, but it's not a movie I'm going to be like, hey, guys, you've got to see Hustle and Flow. It's more like, I saw that movie.
Did you just wake up from a coma in 2005? That'd be a weird sentence to say out loud.
But I tell you what, let's segue over to a movie that I would say is quite timeless, and because it's a movie made in the 1960s, set in the 1920s, but that felt so relevant today, which is just bonkers. Say, let's talk about Inherit the Wind, 1960s, directed by Stanley Kramer, who had a pretty incredible run, I think, of movies. Let me bring this one up. But Inherit the Wind, I went in just going, okay, which one of these? What kind of Will movie are we getting into this week? And I was like,
yeah. And I warned you guys beforehand. I was like, look, it's a oldie and an oldie for sure, but I think it's got some redeeming qualities. I really did try to find something that was a little bit more new, because I'm wary about showing people older movies, because I'm like, look, not everybody has a good time. I like watching anything, but I try to think about other people when I recommend movies. And luckily, I think in this time, yeah.
No, I'm like I said, Will. That's why I think.
Yeah, I love your perspective and what you bring to this.
You make us watch movies I never ever watch ever.
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like, oh, okay, I have to watch it. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad I watched this movie. This is like, you know, I still talk about Giant to other people. I'm like, that movie's really good, like the Texas movie. So, but this one, like, I was watching it to prepare. It's like maybe I can soften Ryan up, you know, by watching this one first. And I was like, no, Ryan, you're gonna like it. Like, you're gonna like this movie. It is a good movie.
And I did. I really did.
It held up way better than I remembered. So that's and I remember it being good, but I was like, it is old. So
all I had going into this movie was all these text messages. So I'm like, what is this? A monkey trial movie? That sounds fucking awesome. And there's, God damn it, there was no fucking monkey crime partnership going on here. It was just one cigarette smoking chimp.
Yeah,
and
which is terrifying, especially after Nope. It is scary to see.
That was
hanging around people. You are kind of like, oh god.
I was thinking of that too. I'm like, oh boy, at any moment, this chain smoking monkey could just lose his fucking shit.
We're about to find out how Spencer Tracy died. Yeah, just ripping his face off.
Famously had his face ripped off.
But it's great. I really did enjoy watching this movie, even though I did think it was going to be a buddy cop thriller with a monkey and, you know, any which way but loose. But no, it's fun. You know, can't rain.
Can't always have the perfect movie. Yeah.
It's interesting. Roger Ebert, in 2006
had the same complaint. Not enough monkey crimes.
Yeah, that's exactly what he says. But he says it's a film that rebukes the past, but may also have feared the future. That's pretty on the nose, Roger, considering where we are and where we are. I mean, that's the thing that really is, like, we talked about it when we first mentioned it, but this movie tells a story of a court case which is getting into basically, you know, states' rights over federal, but the idea of Tennessee's sort of state law saying you can't teach the theory of evolution, and if you do, you go to jail. And it does kind of play out in the movie that it becomes very much like a center. Everyone's eyes are on it. You know, the federal government is watching it, but the world is watching it as well. And it's kind of got that thing of, again, very, very relevant today, that the rest of the world is kind of looking at America like going, what the fuck are you guys doing?
It's the OJ trial all over again.
But like, I mean, you must have found this like as well, guys. It's like watching this movie was like, you could make this exact movie.
I was watching the whole time. I was literally audibly going, "Ugh." Oh no,
it's so weird. Relevant. Yeah, it's weird how relevant it is. Like it's almost like if they had made a movie back then and talking about like the ethics of AI and stuff. It's like that level relevant where you're just like, how old is this movie? And they're like, we're still talking about the same thing. It's very odd to see.
But, it's very good, this movie. I'm like, and I think it's just the powerhouse of acting that you're seeing in this movie. Spencer Tracy is like, when he can be calm, he can be like getting at something, he can be driven. He's just a powerhouse actor. And then like Frederick Marsh as well, their interplay and the little things with Frederick Marsh of like the way he eats and like his acting is brilliant. And like that little, like the bit where he's hung out and he sees a nut next to him and he's like, I think I'm gonna have a nut. And it's sort of like he puts these little things in about his character that I find really fun to watch, you know, especially like considering like I disagree with so much of what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's character.
He's charismatic for sure, but what a fucking asshole.
Yeah. You get why he ran for president, and also
3 times
voted for him.
Yeah. 3 times
like,
they said.
Like, I get it. He's interesting. I don't want that guy in power at all.
No.
Like,
yeah, I mean, it's also interesting as well because it's reflective of the time is that you go back 100 years and this was what the Democrats were. And like you go forward 100 years and everything's turned on its head. And now it's kind of like what Republican politics has become in America, which I found pretty fascinating. And then Gene Kelly just being casually Gene Kelly, you know, in a supporting role. Like, you know, you've got these other guys. He doesn't have too much to do, but everything he does do, I like He's always making those comments about the guy, you know, like going, oh man, like even his friends wouldn't like him, or you know, just
Yeah, and he like looks over and like, what the hell, man? I'm right here.
and they frame it really well. They always have
Yeah.
the guy he's talking about, like it's center frame and Gene Kelly on the outside and things.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That whole shot where they first enter the courtroom, I think it starts behind the judge and it like pans around. You get the geography of that entire scene and where everyone is. It was a really great like long one take shot, and then it like lands on the news reporter is just talking shit. He's so great. He's my favorite part.
That's great. He's
Yeah.
just leaned back and he's just mouthing off about the guy next to him, and like, and he's really painting the scene with his words and stuff like
He's
that.
literally just he's standing over there like staring. He's like, "What the hell?"
I'm right here.
Yeah.
I'm right here. Are you kidding me?
It's like he pulls the microphone. It's like,
Right. You know I'm talking about you, right?
Yeah.
Yes, clearly you're pointing at me. You're saying I'm an idiot right there. Yeah.
He's what my grandmother would call a real piece of shit.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, it's the performances are incredible. Spencer Tracy, of course. Like it looks like everything he says like physically hurts him. He's just constantly like
I was
tell me about the Bible. I'm just like, are you okay? Do you need a
These guys are like acting through heartburn. It's just like I said, I was like, oh my God, these guys, they look like they're gonna fucking have a coronary at any line of dialogue, and spoiler alert, he did.
One of the
like, oh,
characters.
shit, I called it.
He's like, and I was looking at his head. So he's got like a
makeup, yeah.
Yeah, because you can see like the hair when you look closely. I'm like, okay, I think I can see the edging of that, and then like also because he's got incredible sweat on his bald like head. That I'm like, it has to be, and I'm sure you've done this rule, but like when you're on scenes, if you want to have something that looks like, you know, when I just shot commercials and stuff like that for sort of drinks to get that really nice sort of like condensation, it's glycerin. It's like you're spraying glycerin on things that creates this really good look that I was like,
beads.
I bet, because he had these wonderful shots where the light's just catching every bead of sweat on his head. And I was sitting there going, "Oh, I bet that's super sticky," like in my head. But it does make you. It's a character in the movie is the heat, you know, to the point that like Ryan was saying, everyone's kind of got these handheld fans, which says, you know, donated by a whatever it was,
a mortuary clinic.
Mortuary, and they're just like, and that's what the other guy doing. Like Frederick March uses that all the time for acting. He's just in the background, even when like, you know, you've got Spencer Tracy doing his thing. And you got Frederick in the background goes, fan himself quickly in response. And it's like this,
they're
using every trick they can, man. They're acting with everything, even the fans.
I think he said it was like something like 97 degrees in that courtroom because he's trying to like get people out of there. I think that part of the beginning where they're cross-examining like the jurors to see who's relevant, like who can be a rural juror or not. But yeah, they all have the fans, and I was like, God, it must smell worse than Ace Ventura's apartment in this courtroom. My God, there's so many people in there, so sweaty.
Yeah, it's so packed, and it's such a tiny courtroom space too. It's not like it's massive and sprawling like like Time to Kill. It's pretty small. And actually, it's weird geography too because I don't know.
It's in Hill Valley, so it's
not a lot of room, but like. You got the lawyers who are like sitting on the sides of the table, not like behind the table, which that will move around. Like, sit behind the table, guys. Like, you know, just where they were sitting there.
One prick with the glasses who was just a fucking asshole.
Yeah, like even the witnesses were just sitting on a chair, you know, in front of like where the judge was. It was like, and to be honest,
it's an odd setup.
Yeah, well, the thing is that you see movies like A Time to Kill and you think that, oh, wow, courtrooms are so ornate. And then you see actual courtrooms nowadays and it's just, you know, it's just fluorescent lighting and just, you know. So it was, I know what you mean though, because I had the sort of the same vibe, but it just felt, and because it just felt like a stage play. You know, you can just see how it would just, I mean, I did, when I was at school, I remember doing A Few Good Men, you know, so doing courtroom is like, it's got its own sort of challenges because there's not so much moving around. You're stuck at a table sometimes, you know what I mean? So you got to use what you've got. But it's still, I was expecting this movie to be a slog and it was the exact opposite. It moved very quickly. You You know, it was quite like it's driven. It's really good at frustrating you, because like he's so hamstrung. Like he brings out all these experts and like, that would be illegal because he's going to say something that we don't like. That's really annoying. They do it again and again and again and again, and then like you get that kind of moment where Spencer Tracy, like, he kind of leans back and gets a smirk on his face while he's hugging the Bible because he's like, all right, okay, got you. I can only use the Bible. I'm going to use the Bible. But he's going to go into the Bible and he's going to find all the things that argue against the argument. Essentially, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to hoist you with your own petard. Here you go. You know, and here's some rope. I'm going to let yourself hang yourself with it. I thought it was like, I like that bit, the interplay between, because there were two big moments. One is Spencer Tracy interrogating Frederick Marsh when he's on the stand, but the other one is Frederick Marsh when he's got Donna Anderson. So the fiance of the guy on trial, who's also the daughter of the priest, he goes after her in that scene. That was a really intense scene. What do you guys think about that?
That was I mean,
totally, I saw that. I definitely didn't doze off during that part. No, you're right. I mean, it was a super impactful scene. I mean, there's so much going on between these characters outside of the courtroom too that you don't normally get a taste of, and he fucking laid into her. Yeah, it's
because there's so much like righteous anger that's seeping through the community. Like the bit that I found so jarring is, they're marching through town and they're singing their hallelujahs and stuff, but they're identifying these guys. Like the guy that's like on trial, he's in the jail, he's looking out, the window, and they're going, "We're gonna hang Bertram Cates from the something apple tree. We're gonna hang you, like we're going to hang you while we're burning this guy in effigy. But just FYI, irrelevant this trial, because you've been teaching science, we want to kill you. Amen." And it makes us good people, and it makes you feel very uncomfortable. That sort of like that kind of element, that undercurrent of the movie is like, if you don't believe in the Bible, I want you dead, and that means I'm a good person. And it's like,
especially with the foresight of knowing that still happens.
That's the thing.
It's still people's argument.
It does leave a sort of like really sort of like uncomfortable sort of taste in your mouth of like,
not since Bad Boys 2 did I squirm in my chair watching this movie.
but yeah, it's it's one of those things where it's a positive in the sense of like it makes the movie timeless and like anybody can watch it in any era, and it's like, wow, this is incredible. But the negative side of that is like, I really wish this wasn't still relevant. I really wish like we could watch this and be like, isn't this silly? Like what people were like back then,
right? And that's what they were doing in the 60s. They're making this movie set in the 20s, going, God, can you believe people were this silly?
Yeah.
And then you jump forward another 50 years and we're like, oh, can you believe people are this? Like, can you believe this is still happening?
You got people these days saying things like the earth is round, which we all know is ridiculous. Like, come on. It's silly stuff.
Crazy bastards. It's ridiculous. Another real standout scene for me was where the priest has a sort of like it's supposed to be a silent vigil, but it turns into, of course, him proselytizing. But he essentially, in front of the whole town, damns his daughter to hell. And I was like, that scene was like, shit. Like, what I mean? That was like, for me, one of the absolute like most powerful parts of the whole thing. You've got everybody gathered, you've got all our characters there, and he's straight up just pointing at his daughter, Donna Anderson, the actress Donna Anderson, and just damns her to hell in front of everybody. And you're like, bro, read the room. Hey, man.
Yeah.
Read the room, man.
Well, she uses that energy to turn around and write the world's greatest hip hop song.
I damn my daughter. Damn my daughter. Damn my Winston the Oscar.
Here for a priest.
Yeah, there we go. Guys, we've got a hit on our hand.
Again, swear to God, this is just a hit factory today here, the production company of the United States of a movie. But yeah, I mean, like, what about like Will? That scene in particular, like, you know, the whole. But again, it's just like the guy was acting on 11. Everyone's tied up to 11 in this movie, and I really
that's
great. That's why I think
monologuing.
it's so enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the benefit of it being a play first is like, you know, you get all that, like actors just get incredible like monologues and dialogue to say and perform it in this really theatrical way, and you know that's why people at the end of the day like watching movies. They like people like performing at this high level, and that's the thing is this movie everybody is turning in a great performance. There's not like one performance. Maybe the chimp is a little weak, but everyone else is like,
disagree.
I just don't think that chimp had ever smoked before. I don't know.
Oh, God, that was hard. that was admittedly difficult to watch.
Yeah,
it's that cat. Yeah, it was. I mean, Spencer Tracy, like for example, going off the back of what you're saying there, Will, but like the Spencer Tracy's final summation to the jury is all done in one shot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just like it's and incredible. It reminds me in the same way that you remember how amazing Matthew McConaughey's like last bit is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's like, now imagine she's white. You know, look, it was like yeah. It did have like a great, because I feel like it's because TV. You know, we don't get the great courtroom sort of movies anymore. You don't get A Few Good Men. You don't get, you know, these sort of like I want the truth moments.
You get Suits or you get nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you get what was that? It just came out on Amazon Prime. The Tommy Lee Jones, Jamie Lee Foxx, The Burial. Is that the name of it?
Jamie Lee Foxx.
Jamie Lee Foxx, Tommy Lee Jones, Pamela Lee Anderson,
Tony Lee Curtis,
Tony Lee Curtis, Jamie. Yeah, I'm just gonna call him that from now on. Jamie Lee Foxx forever. But yeah, the Burial, which is like the latest courtroom drama. That you know, you'd think like, okay, these are two like top tier actors. This is their chance to do like some amazing monologuing, and you see the movie and you're like, wow, we really did forget how to do like gripping courtroom dramas. Like it's just so weak, and it's, you watch something like this and you're like, or you know, and even A Time to Kill where you're like, we used to bring it for these, like this used to be like what actors love to do.
Yeah.
And then you see like modern ones and you're like,
but then you get like absolute iconic classics like Pauly Shore and Jury Duty, which was a revelation for its time.
And then Liar Liar as well. That's like, I'm kicking my ass.
Or you get, what was the Jury Duty show on, was that on Amazon?
Oh yeah, the actual
great.
Jury Duty show. Yeah,
that was good.
The last great courtroom show.
Yeah, that was great. I watched a couple of episodes.
Awesome.
I got to go back and finish that. That was very funny.
It's so
what's
good.
Interesting actually that Frederick March is the actress playing his wife. Phenomenal actress, Florence Eldridge, I want to say. She was great in this movie, but that's actually his wife.
Oh shit.
So they were like they were married from the 40s all the way up into 75 when Frederick March died. I was like, that'll be kind of fun. Don't I just play my Mrs.? Yeah, cool, come on. Let's go.
Yeah, well, I mean, you say that, but didn't work out for Mr. and Mrs. Smith now, did it?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the new. Have you seen that show?
I meant the movie. Yeah, it's great.
Is it good?
Good, yeah.
I just love
it. It's also directed by I think Hiro Murai. I think that's right. Hiro Murai, who did Atlanta. So it's got this like very unique like look and feel to it, which I think is great. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I've been trying. I'm trying to get Mrs. into watching Atlanta. I think I've watched the first episode twice.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Watch it. Let's watch it. I think it's just gonna be one of those shows I'm gonna have to watch by myself.
Banshee.
Yeah, Banshee. I watched the first episode of Banshee too. I'm enjoying that. Like I said, I've got so many.
Man. It's like good.
I was gonna say, well, the interesting thing about this movie is based off, like two of our movies based off a true story, but they have fictionalized a lot of it. So they've changed the character names and things like that to just sort of like sort of play it out. But then you've got that sort of twist that Ryan sort of brought up at the end, is that at the end of the movie, sort of Frederick March gets up and he wants to give his rousing sort of speech, but it was kind of like, it's an interesting sort of ending to it, that they realize that the judge is about to sort of pass judgment, but at the same time, like the mayor comes up and goes, like, just FYI, there's an election in November. and everybody is watching this, and like, so so in the end they go, okay, it's a $100 fine.
Yeah.
So it becomes almost like a nothing kind of thing, which was weird. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to become more of a thing. So the character that's Frederick March's character gets up to give a speech, and then like Ryan says, you called it.
Dies.
He dies, but it's because his stomach explodes, and that kind of like, because he's been eating the whole bloody movie. It's been that little, hey, you remember how he's always
he's eating so much fried chicken.
Yeah,
it's such a fun way. The way he's working on his papers. He's like the Gremlins when they get that fried chicken after midnight.
Yes.
And you go,
yeah. And in the courtroom too. In the courtroom, he's sitting there
with a picnic basket.
Like a literal bucket.
Yeah. And he just like literally throws it all at his assistant, like the other guy. He's like, the judge is here, quick, clean away my shit. And he does all finger licks and stuff like that. Oof. He was just great. Like I said, he was just making some bold character choices, and I'm like,
yeah, I loved all his quirks.
Yeah. Like I feel like I learned a lot by watching this movie about one, historically how nothing's ever going to change, but two, phenomenal actors doing phenomenal acting.
Yeah.
And I think like this is a movie that I would. I mean, would you say I would tell people watch this movie? It's been remade numerous times, but I would say watch this. Watch the 1960s version. It does feel exactly like a movie that you would be shown at school, but that doesn't mean it's a bad movie.
No, I didn't mean like right. That. It just, I think I meant because it's such an important film, and it is. We can't overstate just how shocking, how relevant this movie still is.
It's kind of that's what I love about movies, is that movies that last forever. It just doesn't matter if you're watching a movie from like, the late 1900s or if just go back to the beginnings of,
unless you're a Batgirl. Then you're fucked.
Or the Coyote. It's just like this is a movie that you will love if you love stage plays. You'll love if you love movies. You'll love if you like courtroom dramas, but you'll also love if you like history. I think it's like it's a random 4-quadrant movie, because the quadrants are all very different. But it's like I would say this is definitely that's worth your time. That's worth the effort. Sit down and watch it. But also like the extra cherry on top is it's so relevant today. It's crazy. You know what I mean? It really is. And they didn't know that when they made it. You'd think we'd move forwards, but no, we're moving backwards. And sometimes, But like, I would say that you should also watch the next movie, because I know part of us have all been waiting. So let's talk about Walking Tall. Let's get into Walking Tall, the most random movie of the week. It's definitely getting my random movie award, but also thoroughly enjoyable. How would you boil down Walking Tall to anyone that's never seen it? Ryan, sell your average viewer, listener on the idea of Walking Tall.
1973, Stone Cold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Done. That was brilliant. Yeah. Okay, you're very good at that. That was very good. It's like, yes, Stone Cold, which we famously had on the show for which state was?
Doesn't matter.
I can't remember.
Just for America. It represents America.
But yes, there you go. It is very much that. And kind of like, it is also a historic, it's based off a true story, like we've said. And it's like, it goes off the wall crazy from about 10 minutes in.
Yeah. And it's not a short movie, but it's a good, like, just over 2 hours, I think.
This movie 2-hour movie, just right? Over.
But it does, like, plot wise, it flies by, but it takes its time and goes at a snail's pace a bit. But the movie, it opens with him, like a lovely driving scene, right? And they get into town. Then he buys a plot of land that his dad told him about, so he could work at a lumber yard that's on his dad's land, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is essentially don't listen to your wife, because it was his wife's idea for him to retire from wrestling, to settle down. He decides to settle down in the most crime-ridden area.
I guess. That opening bar seems fucking awesome. What is your deal?
It does seem pretty cool.
The whole thing goes down because his friend, who is maybe the best part of this movie. Love him.
Yeah, he's only in it for 5 minutes, and you need
Yeah, I
subtitles
was
to understand
wondering.
everything he's saying.
I had to ask. I'm like, because he's like showing. He's like, oh, you haven't been here in a while. I think they used to play football together, right, in high school.
Yeah, like
Something,
at school.
yeah.
Right? Yeah. So he's like showing them all around town, and he takes them to all the all the hits.
Yeah.
He takes them to the brothel, and he takes them to the bar, and in the back there's a casino. And he's like, come on, man, just give me $35 more. And there's a guy at the end of the table who's he's got like shaved dice. He's playing craps, and he like grabs his hand. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Just all this could have been avoided.
He
Like,
gets
we're not hurting anyone.
right into it. Like that's the thing. It's his buddy who he hasn't seen for however many years, dozens of years, sees him on the street, commits a couple of vehicular.
Oh my God! What is he doing?
And it's like he's clearly out of control, and the wife's like, "Hey, go off with your friend. Your clearly unstable friend who just did like donuts in the street kind of thing."
Yeah.
And then his initial thought is like, "I haven't seen you for so long. Come, let me take you to show you where the prostitutes are. Prostitutes are here. The prostitutes are here. This is the illegal drinking den, and here's the illegal gambling." And his first reaction is, "I'm calling them out for cheating in a room full of these people by myself with no backup." You know, he was like, that was the first of many poor choices that you make in this movie.
Yeah, and they beat the ever living fuck out of him. That's what I'm saying. Like, was his friend killed? Because you never see him again.
So you do
never mentioned.
He is mentioned. It is mentioned. So when he's in court, so I'm going to skip ahead quickly, but once he goes back and he makes a club out of a tree branch and he goes back to the place and beats the fuck out of everybody, and he ends up in court, like his buddy, you get like he was going to testify. They go, "Oh, by the way, we just pulled his body and his car out of the river." So that's it. So it's such a quick throwaway line that, by the way,
Jesus.
And if you didn't say the character's name, you miss it. That was like, because I was like, there it is.
Yeah.
It's
they beat the shit out of him and his friend. They leave him for dead on the side of the road, which seems like it's in the middle of absolute nowhere, and yet there's like the amount of cars that are consistently driving by on this lost highway is crazy. He's mutilated, like they carve God knows what into his chest.
Right. So they don't just beat him up. So he gets into a fight, and
they send a message.
Yeah. Yes. They beat the ever living crap out of him, and then they take a knife and they cut him dozens of times. Slice up his chest, slice up his back, leave him with 200 stitches and a $50 bill. With the
doctor came to his house.
House call saved him from death. 200 stitches. That'd be $50.
Yeah. And then, he takes it upon himself. But this is what I actually love is once he gets his energy back up, he crafts us. You could see him like whittling this giant it's a comical sized club that he is holding in almost every scene.
It's almost as big as him. It's so huge.
Yeah. I got me my beating stick.
His puss smasher, as we dubbed it. Or the puss crusher. I don't know.
He gets beaten up, left for dead, stabbed, and then once he's healed, he becomes friends with an old friend of his, Felton Perry, from the OCP. Yeah, you know me. You may recognize him from all of the RoboCop movies as one of these sort of generic OCP guys.
As Johnson. Yeah.
It took me like 20 minutes to figure out that was him. Like watching this movie.
It was in 2 seconds. I knew exactly who that was.
I was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
It's the glasses. I was missing those glasses. But then he goes down, goes back, beats the crap out of everybody.
He becomes Joe Don Wick. And just fucking wrecks shop. But I love that he just destroys everyone with this stick, and then he's just like because the cops come and ask him. He's like, "Where's my fucking car?" And they're like, "We don't know. We're not great at we're not great cops. All right, let's just say that."
The sheriff goes back. He's like, everybody. So basically, the corruption goes all the way to the top. So the Dixie Mafia has essentially got control.
Just like Stone Cold.
Yeah, they've got control of the judge. They've got control over the sheriff, and that kind of sets up that moment where he's like, he's on trial, gives an amazing sort of like, it's no Spencer Tracy. But he gives the right sort of thing to the jury and to everybody there. That essentially is like the plot becomes, all right, it's time to run for sheriff.
Yeah.
So everything's corrupt in this town. and like not everyone is happy about it. Sure, the other half of the town is they're getting blowjobs and everything else. The amount of like there's just the amount of prostitutes available in this town. I'm like half the female population of this town is a prostitute.
Again, fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Stop trying to fix this town.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Yes.
So, and that's essentially what happens is he then becomes sheriff, and then like he goes about his business in a way that
never wears a uniform. Never wears a uniform.
But like he has a card that says sheriff on it. That's about
sometimes.
it.
Sometimes
it says sheriff. Sometimes it has his name on it.
And then sometimes it has a license plate on it as well.
Yeah. And real big on the back, it says like Pussmobile. Or no, wait, he had
Pusher wagon.
It said something, or maybe just said his last name, right?
It was Pusser on the back of his truck.
Yeah.
And
It was a Toyota. Awesome. It was a Toyota Land Pusser.
Yeah.
Or a Toyota Puss Cruiser. I don't know.
And then he had it because he was running for sheriff.
Right.
You also we skipped over the car chase, non-car chase, car chase.
Holy shit!
Running for sheriff, the other sheriff chases him down because he's a twat. But ends up
they're literally running for sheriff, like in their car. It's
yeah,
which
literal race he's ever been.
And the sheriff drowns. The way the car explodes.
Guys, in an almost hard ticket to Hawaii style car chase sequence, it is truly baffling what is going on, why this is happening. Because he goes. Is this after he's running for sheriff? He goes to the jazz club and he's putting up posters, right? And then the other sheriff comes in. He's like, "Fuck that!" He pulls his posters down. He's putting slightly bigger posters over them. And then he says a comment to him, and he says a line back, and he fucking leaves. And the current sheriff is fucking enraged, so much so that he gets his deputy, throws him in the car, and they chase after him. And then this goes down a typical car chase route where the car is bumping into his other car. He goes across a Beetlejuice style bridge. Yeah. The car turns around, and Joe Don Baker gets out of his car with his club, of course. And then he sees the car barreling towards him. He's like, "Oh no, I shouldn't have gotten out of my car." Hides behind the thing. The car goes off the side, explodes in midair. Car lands in the ravine.
Ravine. He is definitely overselling the very small river into which this car.
It's a puddle. It's a puddle.
Yeah, it's a puddle, and the car just explodes.
Oh my god! Why?
The deputy's fine, by the way. The deputy's okay.
Well, he's
sheriff is a little
to...
crispy, but
he died of racism.
Yeah, I had to rewatch that like 3 times because I'm like, wait, how did did I miss something?
It's not like he hit it with the club.
He just that would have been awesome.
He moved out of the way, and the car doesn't like. I was like, oh no, they're gonna get, because the bridge is like super narrow and the cars are side by side. I'm like, oh, it's gonna do a classic like car flip.
Yeah, he was gonna do the car flip. I was waiting for it.
I was waiting for that. Yeah, nope.
He just accelerates into the river, and whoever was timed with triggering that explosion, he prematurely. He went off prematurely.
I mean, I think the car itself just decided to explode right there. I think that's the only logical explanation.
The car explodes in an almost Wraith style fashion, where you see the sheriff, naked with his eyes burned out.
And Pusser, that's where his like braces start to disappear, and he's slowly becoming.
I kept
Charlie
waiting
Sheen.
for a scene where he's like, his wife is like, "Buford, what are you gonna do?" And he's like, he just turns around, cocks his shotgun, and he's like, prepared him to eat puss, and just God. This again, what I was saying at the top of the episode, there were glimpses of a much better movie that we are now currently writing.
Oh yeah, but that's the T-shirt, by the way. Is current day Joe Don Baker with a beer in hand, prepared to eat puss. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, the thing is, right? So then I was sort of saying, if you actually get into the truth behind this movie, so that sheriff did die by crashing his car into a river. Unclear as to whether the car blew up first. But so now we've got our lead character as the sheriff, but he's got no like actual experience of being a sheriff. Then he gets his buddy from OCP to come in as a sort of deputy sheriff as well. But then he kind of like the very first big arrest he does is like he finds out that like 8 people have died one state over from sort of poisoned white lightning. So the
Moonshine. Yeah.
that's being stilled around his town. So he goes and he rounds them up by telling his friend, telling Felton Perry, hey man, a whole bunch of N-words just died. Don't you want to do something about it? And he's like, why are you saying the N-word to the only black character?
Yeah. Well, he pulls
you
up
were
to
way too comfortable saying that. Yeah.
He pulls up to his house, and because I think he's working on his car at the time, and then someone in the background walks up with a shotgun, and then he like waves him off. He's like, no, it's cool. And the guy was, I think he said the guy was so disappointed that he didn't get to use. Like, oh man,
he was my favorite.
It basically sulks off.
Like, he's been waiting all month for that shit.
He was a background actor that was given one thing to do, and he got into character. But yeah, comes out with a shotgun like, there's got to be somebody needs some killing. Yeah. And like he's like, no, it's cool. You just see him in the background. He's like, oh, he's like George Michael from Arrested Development.
Yeah, that's it. Yes. The script just said shotgun, sad.
And that guy nailed it.
Yeah,
100%. Absolutely nailed it. Like he's just, oh man.
He comes back in Walking to All.
Yeah. Every movie he shows up. Finally, in the third one, can I use the shotgun? Yeah. We actually need a shotgun.
That's where Hobo with the shotgun actually came from.
Yes.
And from this point, so then his very first arrest, he goes up and he rounds all those guys up, brings them in, and then like the judge goes, "Well, I've got to let them go. You didn't arrest them. You didn't read them their rights. You had no, like, you didn't have a search warrant. It's like, do you not watch TV, buddy? Like, even you never watch Suits." But it's like
ooh, Suits set in the 70s? Give me that.
Banging Suits. But yeah, that kind of begins with like, okay, he doesn't really know what he's doing. But as the movie goes on, I was expecting it doesn't go the way you would expect this movie, does it? Like, because I guess it gets crazy. It gets crazy.
Well, once you dive into like all of the how deeply seated the corruption goes, I mean, he is a terrible sheriff.
Oh, he's awful. Yeah, it's the whole thing is supposed to be like he's here to clean up the town, but he's just as like ignorant of the law and people's rights as like anyone else, and he's just constantly hitting people.
And he wins this sheriff bid almost so unceremoniously, like he's woken up in the middle of the night.
Right.
By this like caravan of vehicles that just roll up to his house, and his dad is there.
Yeah, his dad was there.
You did it, man.
You won, son. Oh, was that tonight?
And then exactly. Like, would you have been there? And then it cuts to his wife. She's just so unhappy.
She's like, I'm gonna die, aren't I?
God, they kept like really leaning into these reaction shots from her, and you're like, oh man, something not nice is going to happen.
It keeps, and it's usually happened to Joe Don Baker. So he's already been beaten up and then mutilated. Gets elected sheriff, gets shot 3 times point blank range. Because he only carries his beaten stick, and like he keeps bringing us
again terrible sheriff.
Fights.
Yeah.
So he gets blown away again, and then the guy like in real life got shot like 12 times. Like he's just. A bullet
and went on to drop one of the hottest hip hop albums ever to come out of Tennessee.
It's hard out here for
puss.
That's it. It's hard out here for a puss.
God damn it. Now on Spotify. That's great.
Another Joe Don Baker hit. Yeah.
I wish this, and maybe I'm misremembering. Did this movie? Because in movies like this, there would be like a montage of scenes of him like cleaning up the town, so to speak, like kicking in doors and arresting people and all that fun stuff.
Just something. I mean, this movie came out before like Jaws and stuff, so plots hadn't been invented yet.
Montages were invented.
Montages weren't invented. Story wasn't invented. Movies were
sharks were just big fish.
Exactly. Yeah. So like they didn't really know what a story was or how it was supposed to flow yet. You can't blame them. This is just a random collection of scenes that happen to kind of form a coherent idea.
Yeah. They're just this movie is just the ramblings of an old man that was shot 12 times.
Yeah. Exactly. It's essentially kind of what they did is that they've reached in and they've found things that happened. And then said, all right, we'll put those in the movie. But
that's exactly what it sounds like.
They didn't sort of like then go, well, how are we going to get some narrative flow into this? They go, What do you mean? Don't be ridiculous. We're just gonna put it
He's
in.
already got the stick. What more do you want?
Right. That's the story. Yeah.
We said the metaphor. Now he's got to hold the stick. It's kind of the whole thing.
His daughter,
Yeah.
who wrote his biography, said that he never carried a wooden post. He isn't,
Ah,
but he was known to
Boo.
pick one. Yeah, he was known to pick one up whenever it was needed. But apparently, in this place, it was needed a hell of a lot.
I mean, he's doing press conferences with the thing. He's in the mortuary with this thing. Like, it's just
yeah.
just in case
it's
somebody
fucking
needs
crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
And he does use that stick very well. But he does eventually, after being shot 3 times, begin carrying a gun.
Yeah.
Which he does put to good use, because I mean, then get like, because essentially the people that run all the casinos and the bars and the hookers and everything else, they've got their own collective, their own co-op of crime, if you will. And they just keep trying to kill him in different ways. And so there was the guy, the bar guy, who's like, you know, he's like, I can kill him. And they were like, well, didn't you go to like prison for 6 years for doing it? He goes, yeah, guy's still dead, ain't he? Like,
Great.
I did what I said I would do.
Yeah.
And then he goes off and like he shoots out all the windows of like Buster's house. But then this is like the trauma that is afflicted upon this family. These poor children, like, so dad's almost died. Dad's almost died again. Now we're in our house that mom insisted we buy instead of living on the road. It gets shot up by a guy with a shotgun. Then dad goes outside, murders that guy, but not before our dog takes a shotgun blast to the chest. How do we know? Because dad walks back into the house with the traumatized children who've just been the victim of a shooting, carrying the mangled, bloody corpse of their dog, and then just sort of shoves it in their face and goes, I'm sorry. And then he starts crying, cut. Then the scene just cuts.
Why would you do that?
He also shoots the guy in the back as well. I do enjoy that. Like, guy gets it in the back and goes, it's a good kill. At least it wasn't like an acorn that came at him. Very, very
that's real terrifying.
Yeah, the shotgun blasts are fucking awesome in this movie, I will say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then he almost gets shot again by the really, really drunk madam that's running all the prostitutes.
Well, and you get that scene where she has to, oh my God, because we're overlooking, like, I think he's got like an informant that's like leaking information to these like mob heads, right?
One of the prostitute with the really nice breasts that he stares at uncomfortably long at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And we do cut to it 3 times so you can focus on these are the breasts that he's looking at. Okay.
Yeah, the camera lingers on him for, like, I'm gonna say roughly about 20 minutes, like, for each shot. It is such a long shot. And
when I said this movie was paced slowly, that's not what I meant.
Right.
That was perfect.
She's the informant you were saying, right?
Yeah, like someone's leaking. He gets the call. He's trying to go around and like shut all these places down. And I think it's Christmas Eve, right? It's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Because they say that. He's like, he leaves his family to go check on this lead. She's like basically planting the seed, luring him to this bar, which she's just throwing drinks around. This bar looks like fucking awesome. I love it. She's like, oh shit, he's coming. I better go prepare. She goes into the back, pulls out a sawed-off shotgun, puts like a coat over it, and just sits and waits for him to show up. And you think it's going to be like 20 minutes. No, he shows up immediately.
Yeah.
Fires off the shotgun blast, kills someone.
I think he just ducks under her shotgun blast because he's got the movement skills.
And then shoots her twice in the head, and the reaction shots of it are awesome.
Yeah.
Twice in the face. Like, not just one, and then one for good measure.
And then casually walks over to make sure she's still dead.
Well, the way, actually, the way he walks through that bar was so weird. He's holding his pistol in such a strange way, and then he has to kind of step over all the extras and things.
Because everyone's crouched down because this horrific thing just happened, and no one leaves. They're just like,
everyone just stays. Everyone stays still.
I just got a beer.
Can I order another drink? Are we still? Yeah.
God.
Illegal liquor? No. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
The way she's setting up that shotgun is so funny because it's like, gets the shotgun. People are like, hey, how's it going? Oh, it's going great. Just like on the table.
She just walks out of a back room with it. Yeah.
It's literally sticking out 2 feet from her.
And again,
like,
this is a town. This is a town where crime is happening constantly. Like, who would care if she walks out waving this fucking shotgun around. She's
Yeah, I
kind
know.
of like running the show there. Isn't it like her bar? Doesn't she own it?
Exactly.
Like,
it's an
fuck you.
illegal bar with illegal prostitutes and illegal alcohol. So whipping a gun out's not really going to bother anybody.
No.
Yeah, why did she even bother to hide it when the first thing she's gonna do when he walks in is just pull the trigger? Like, just sit there like this. Like,
from
it's fine.
across the bar, like that would hit so many people. That is a very dangerous
She
thing.
she also pulls out a small pistol and puts it in her purse. Now that's the truth of the matter. So when so this is another thing that actually happened, is that he did kill her, because she did, during an arrest, she did have a weapon with her, and it kind of like when you do get into the actual history of this stuff, all of the weirdest stuff is like, wait, that actually happened?
It feels like a very like someone retelling a Paul Bunyan like tall tale. It's they make him seem like this really larger than life character through all of these like, these things happened, but let's heighten them a little bit for this movie, which I'm totally on board for. I love it.
Yeah, they heightened it up a little bit, but it gets so much more heightened. Because then we have like, okay, things are going pretty. So there was that funny scene where they've got an informant in the sheriff's department as well. And so they do that night where they're going to bust everybody at the same time. And it was quite funny that you see all the reveals, like they're going in and it's like everyone's drinking milk, and we're pointing and laughing at them. And like they open it to bust a prostitute and it's an old lady in a wheelchair and she's ha 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 ha. Everybody's laughing in the face of these sheriffs like, you suck.
Yeah.
But he's got an informant on his side as well. But then it comes to that point of like, we get that moment where everything's great. And like he's got his tractor and they go and settle down for a picnic. And then, like we said, the entire scene, you are waiting for both his children to get launched into the air by a massive explosion. It's
the way that's shot, because they're in the foreground having this picnic and the boat is on the lake, like very, very far in the distance.
Dead center.
And the new puppy, they have like this perfect little new puppy too. My God.
Right, because the last one died.
Right.
So, and then the very next scene is he gets a call about something across town. Now, this is true. This is what happened, according to him. But then she just like, for no reason in the movie, goes...
She's like, wakes up like, hey, why don't I come to work with you today?
Why don't I come for a ride along? And they literally say like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, it literally is. Had she pulled out a picture and said, after the war, I'm going to marry my girl, and like, these are going to name the children. It was just like all of the signs are like going, oh, well, here
very
we go.
next of kin. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. When you guys were watching the movie, did the words foreshadowing blast on screen like repeatedly?
Oh, the blasting came, all right.
Oh, it did. Because the very next scene, I mean, again, well, it fucking happened, but he gets ambushed and they murder his wife. Her head explodes and then he gets shot 3 more times, this time in the face.
In the face, yeah.
So for the rest of the movie...
a Hannibal Lecter style mask.
You put it on the thread, Clarice. so for the rest of it, I love how it's 70s that you get, if you hurt anywhere, they just bang a cast on you.
Yeah.
The guy in the court case earlier who's just in a full body cast.
That'll buff out. What's crazy is that the entire movie takes course of the span of 3 days.
Yeah.
So many murders.
But what I liked about this, because I had to rewind this scene, like it was a blink and you'll miss it moment. But that last car chase where they're just shooting the car up with a machine gun, she gets blasted in the back like multiple times, but she still screams like, ah. I was like, wait.
We have an actual Chekhov's gun in this movie, where he turns up at the house and he's like, with a shotgun or with a rifle, and he's like, oh, my dad gave me when I was 9. And then the witness is looking and goes, all right, okay, well, I guess we'll wait till you're 9. Then at Christmas Day, he's got a gun-shaped present, and the kid's like, I wonder what this would be.
Yeah.
That was killing me.
Once Pussa
that bowling ball I wanted.
Once Pussa gets blasted in the face, that little bit where the son walks into a hospital, but
they just come on
with a rifle and a box of ammunition, and like, I was like, oh, but also at the same time, what? You just letting this child walk into a hospital with a freaking loaded weapon? Yeah. I'm going to protect my dad. That was kind of a sweet scene. But then the rest of the movie plays out with him unable to speak It's all eye acting. It's just like
it's just him with this mask on, being like, "You thought the darkness was your ally." Just,
I was born here.
Just every scene, it's like, Sheriff.
Yeah, he has to turn like Batman as well. He can't move his head or anything like that. So that was what was sort of like weird. So they've murdered his wife. They've basically almost killed him for the third time in this movie. And so I'm like waiting for this John Wickian style ending where, because in those cars
he gets a new wife.
They were like
the new pretty prostitute. Yeah.
6 guys in that car. And then the movie, he sort of like, he gets out of hospital to go to his wife's funeral and then takes his car and drives it like into the bar and kills 2 guys. And then the movie ends. So like, it's kind of weird because the other like the other sheriffs turn up and they go like, "We're gonna get those guys, Pusser, I promise." And then while they're telling him that, all the guests from the funeral have turned up and they ransack the place and set fire to it. And then the movie ends. And I'm like, well, what about the other 4 guys? What about what about the rest of the mafia? We're like, hello? I mean, I know there's 2 sequels to this movie, but I'm like, I'm frustrated. You haven't finished the story of this movie. You just credits.
For as like much of a cliffhanger as that was, I'm really not so eager to watch 2 more of these movies.
Right. Yeah.
They don't have Joe Don Baker in, so that's why we're not going. Though initially the guy that actual sheriff wanted another guy to play him, and that's the guy that plays
himself.
Yeah, I'm surprised it was himself. But yeah, the sequels is the initial first choice.
Yeah, Bo Svensson, something like that. Yeah,
Svensson, something like that.
He's Swedish, so
yeah, Bo Svensson.
Svensson, yeah.
Yeah. So when he got the opportunity to do it in the sequel, he's like, "Yeah, I'll do that."
Was he in both sequels?
He's in both sequels.
Yeah.
So this
Joe Don went off to do very important movies like Mitchell and Final Justice after this.
Hey man.
Hell yeah, he did.
He's also in The Living Daylights, and then he turns up as Pierce Brosnan's Felix Leiter, not Felix Leiter, as well for a bunch. So he's
this classic Hawaiian shirt wearing guy who may or may not be involved in the CIA.
Dude.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, though, kind of like what Will was saying at the beginning, is these movies are very, very, very Tennessee. Like all of them. Because, okay, you've got Inherit the Wind that, granted, okay, it's being shot clearly in a Hollywood studio and it takes place in a courtroom. It's also a massively famous piece of history that comes out of Tennessee, where that, like I was saying, that the whole world, the whole country and the whole world had their eye on it. It was like this massive moment that happened because of a law in Tennessee that created like waves that went out around the world. You've got Hustle and Flow, which is like shot and set in Memphis, telling a very sort of like, MTV story, but it's shot on the street. It feels
it's
like
a very small scope, like smaller scale.
Yeah.
And then you've got Walking Tall, which was shot in Tennessee, not in the county that it was set in. Much to their regret, it turns out that the elected officials of McNairy County were so embarrassed by the national attention brought to the corrupt county that it refused to allow the movie to be shot there. So it was shot in a neighboring county, but they didn't realize just how much money it would bring in to one of the poorest counties in Tennessee. So it's only when the remake was announced that they tried to get it made there, but it went to British Columbia instead, which just, I guess, just boils down as to why it was such a failed county anyway, that the corrupt people running it were like, oh man, we could have made money off this. What are we thinking? Get the prostitutes.
Yeah, quick, open up another brothel.
So like all 3 of these movies, I mean, this guy is a Tennessee legend that was shot in Tennessee. Hustle and Flow is a very Tennessee movie shot in Memphis. And Inherit the Wind is a massive piece of history for Tennessee that I'm like, I know.
If we're going based off of just like cultural importance and relevance, I'd have to give it to Inherit the Wind for sure.
But like,
if we're going for hookers and
I mean, it's historical and has the benefit of being shot in different county, but in Tennessee.
Yeah, true.
Hustle and Flow for me is a little less tied to Tennessee. That could you could almost set it
And like in
in
Atlanta or something.
yeah, or New Orleans, and it would
Yeah.
pretty much have a very similar vibe.
Yeah, I
Though
mean,
I do think that style of music was very specific to Memphis.
right.
Like,
Yes, yeah.
And that is kind of a plot point in it as well, as like the Memphis, the Memphis music scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that they were like, we could become, you know, that people talk East Coast, West Coast, they should be talking about Memphis. They should be talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like,
So
exactly, but
they-
that's like
yeah.
what they're trying to do in the movie. And
Yeah,
it is, you know, shot entirely. I think the only sort of slight tick against Hustle and Flow is it's a very Memphis movie as opposed to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could say that Walking Tall is a very sort of Tennessee. I know it's one county, you know, but it's like it's giving this other side. I guess I mean, so you've got the city side and you've got the countryside. You know, it's what we get Hustle and Flow and Walking Tall.
And then you get the courtroom side.
Yeah, and then Inherit the Wind is kind of like gets a little bit more into sort of like the mindset, the politics of the area. You know, the way that people were, the way that they were so threatening in a way that like try doing that in a small town, you know, which is very much that kind of comment that you hear in America. And then you've got the exact opposite kind of thing. And Walking Tall is like he's a guy that just I disagree with this. It's like, I'm going to try and do this in a small town. And what happens? My dog's going to die. My wife's going to die. I'm going to be mutilated. Then I'm going to become Hannibal Lecter. And then the credits are going to roll. You know, like,
Yeah.
They've all got, to me, still, they've all got a strong claim to win to win this, which one defines Tennessee.
Yeah.
So like, I'm looking for compelling arguments either way for these movies. Like, someone rule one out, because I'm not ready to rule Hustle and Flow out, because I know your point. Yes, we could have shot it in Atlanta, but at the same time, you couldn't have, because of what the movie is, who the director is, where it is, and where it's from. These guys are from, like, they shot it on the streets of Memphis. It is Tennessee.
Yeah, like Will said, the only striking is that it's very specifically Memphis. It's not all of Tennessee.
It doesn't
Yeah.
Memphis ever, does it?
Not that I know of. Unless that prison's somewhere else, I don't know.
And I think I think the other two being historical based, I think gives those two movies the edge over Hustle and Flow. We're like Hustle and Flow, you can maybe find real stories that are very similar.
Sure.
But the other two are not only based on true stories, they also had like far-reaching impact outside of just Tennessee.
I can see that. All right. So if Hustle and Flow had been more of an 8 Mile, if it was telling the story of a real Memphis rapper coming up and like, you know, getting into the charts and stuff like that, that it would be okay. I can see that. Okay.
Yeah. And we definitely ground it a bit more.
Yeah. Because it's just that, you almost feel a little bit like when you're watching a movie like that, that's because I went back to Straight Out of Compton, is that when you're watching those real movies telling a true story, you know, when the music comes out and it takes you on that ride, you know, be it a Dewey Cox, be it a Walk the Line, be it a whatever, it does have that certain element of, well, there you go, yeah, this happened. So, okay, Hustle and Flow, unfortunately, okay, we're going to draw a line on a Hustle and Flow. Still a movie that you can watch. But like I said, it's not the greatest movie. It's not the worst movie.
You can watch it.
Yeah, you can watch it. It's on Max right now.
It is.
Nothing's stopping you. Yeah.
Yeah. But because of the fictional take of it, even though it's very authentically Memphis, we're going to push that off to the side. Okay. So now we've got a head-to-head. We've got Spencer Tracy, Frederick March, Gene Kelly, Dick York up against Joe Don Baker and a
hell yeah, stick versus religion, bitch.
I would not. I've seen a lot of Joe Don Baker movies. I would hate to go up against him because he'll drunkenly fall on me.
I feel like Tennesseans or Tennesseeites. I'm not sure what a Tennessee person is. Tennesseeman.
Yes. They're going to love that.
I think they would say Walking Tall.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think the people of Tennessee would be like, no, that's our movie. You know, as opposed to Inherit the Wind, which kind of doesn't paint Tennessee in the best light.
True.
It's very much kind of mocking. Well, not mocking, but it's definitely not like complimenting evangelical Christianity.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Whereas
it's not going to make you feel good to be from Tennessee if you see Inherit the Wind. You're just like,
you're probably like, I like cold beer, big sticks, and my Bible.
Right. Right.
In that order.
Yeah.
It's interesting how little of that comes into play in Walking Tall. That there was no act, like he wasn't like a messenger of God. You know, no one mentions the Bible in this. I think the entire movie, it's just there's a bunch of people. There's just people sinning, you know, left, right, and center. And he goes out, but he's not like a righteous force of good. He's a righteous force of.
And even his wife, who's a bit of a Maud Flanders, doesn't really like lean into it all that much. So she's just there to like look doe-eyed and hope that nothing bad happens.
Yeah,
and
she's very sissy Spacek adjacent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get much to do in this movie, in that movie, apart from being
towards the end.
Yeah.
Because I also feel like the bit where Jodie Baker pulls her out of the car onto the ground seemed very uncomfortable, like for the actress.
She was like folded in half.
Yeah.
Like underneath the glove compartment. And he just kind of rolls her out, holds her up, and brutal.
Yeah.
It was a bit, but yeah, it's just there was no like pushback from the community until the very end. I was surprised there wasn't any like, because you've got all the prostitutes and illegal drinking and everything else going on.
They're called voters.
Yeah. Yeah, but there was no Bible thumping. You know, in Walking Tall was quite surprising to me that it's all just like a kind of, it's almost a Mad Maxian vigilante just thing.
What if he had a Bible in his house and he just opens it up, gun in the Bible? Just
no, it should have been a really big fucking Bible and he keeps the stick in it.
Ooh.
So it's a, you know,
it's tremendous 12-foot Bible
stick. Yeah, or just like a giant crucifix instead of the stick.
Ooh, there we go.
Yeah, beating people.
Like the weapon in Johnny Mnemonic, doesn't that guy have like a giant crucifix weapon?
I was gonna say, or like Lost, Mr. Echo had like that stick that had Bible verses carved in it. You should have had that.
Yeah, for sure.
That would have been awesome. They should have Mr. Echo in this movie. That would have been great.
It should have had a young Adam Driver in one of these movies
as the stick.
Oh, he was the chimp in the
Oh, of course, he was so method.
Yeah.
Got into that, like that excellent performance.
Method.
So what do you guys think? Because I'm like, I feel
historically speaking, you'd want to give it to Inherit the Wind, but for fun times all around, you want to give it to Walking Tall.
I have a hard time not giving it because I have such affection for Jodie Baker. I have a hard time not being like giving him the proverbial
his flowers,
with a ribbon on it, and just being like, "Here you go, buddy." People are like, "What movie are you talking about?"
I'd rather share a beer with him than Spencer Tracy. That's for sure.
Yes,
I think because it very much like in the movie, it does like it's very, very proud of the fact that it's from Tennessee, shot in Tennessee. Like it
has the opening title card, right?
Yeah, it slaps you in the face with it from the beginning to the end of like this movie. It's from Tennessee, about Tennessee, set in Tennessee, shot in Tennessee. And you're like, all right, okay. So I think, and I'm kind of happy with this one. I think it's the right
choice.
Yeah.
Is it the better movie? Yes.
Yes. It has 100% more randomly exploding cars than the other two movies. So
I think the best movie is Inherit the Wind. I think the most fun is Walking Tall, but it's not always for good reasons. It's because
it's very schlocky kind of.
Yeah. Some of the schlock and some of the ridiculous makes it more fun.
I was audibly laughing during my watch of that movie.
It was giant spider invasion adjacent. You know, it's like
give me Jodie Baker versus giant spiders.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Somebody write that down.
And then also, actually, it's a quick callback, but when we did New Mexico, we did the movie Them, which is and we did talk about how to all of us, we were like, did anyone else get Aliens vibes? Like we were calling out James.
Yes, I saw this.
And the recent weeks, this has been coming out. Like people have put out articles about this, or like, you know, and like Will send us one. And I was like, so we were like, oh, okay, ahead of the game on this one. But yes, other people have seen that as well, that Them and Aliens, if you put them side by side, are very similar movies. I'm glad that we are not the only people to clock that one. So we're giving
We're not
ourselves
the only people, but we are the best people.
Clearly, whoever read that article listens to our podcast. Thank you very much for listening to our podcast.
Yeah.
But okay, we're going to do it. Right here, we're going to say we are committing that 1973's Walking Tall, starring Joe Don Baker, is the definitive movie about Tennessee, at least up until the time that we can find another movie to topple it. Speaking of other movies, what were some of the other movies that you guys were circling? Because we didn't have a shortage of movies, did we?
The list was tricky, but now that I'm looking at it, I mean, because whenever you go on the Wikipedia page, or even if you go on like a local newspaper that makes a listicle or something, it's usually pulled from that, so it's hard to say. Or it's like one scene was shot here, or someone just farts the word Tennessee, they're going to say it's a Tennessee film. But I think you like the Green Mile pops up because I think that prison is set there, right?
Yeah.
The Firm was another
technically as well.
Yeah, I think Ollie, you mentioned The Firm.
Yeah.
I'm kicking myself for not picking Ernest Goes to Jail. Fuck me, right?
Man,
there
weren't
Elvis
too many
movie, because that's Memphis. And there's a lot of sort of Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
Which I was in, and then you got Walk the Line again. So you got a lot of the movies, like when it comes to music, even Mystery Train, the spirit of Elvis haunts a Memphis hotel.
The horror film series, The Curse. Yes.
We toyed around with the idea of doing the very first Evil Dead movie, even though it's not set in Tennessee.
Yeah. And it was retconned out of the movie. So
it was. Right. Yeah. So that's the thing. But that was famously shot around there. Cocaine Bear, another one. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I had seen it. That's why I didn't pick it. I'm not as hot on that movie as a lot of people are. That's in that Sharknado branch of like, we're trying to make this kind of schlocky movie as opposed to being, and I was like, that doesn't work for me so much.
So a lot of the choices there's a lot of musical, like Hannah Montana the movie, Country Strong 2010 movie with Tim McGraw and Gwyneth Paltrow. It's all like, once you get into Tennessee, you've got Nashville, you've got Memphis, you've got so much that I think maybe when we come back around, I think we're going to have to sort of dig into some of these.
We're just going to do all the Walking Tall movies.
Well, but then they've been moved out of Tennessee. So like the sequels aren't Tennessee. Well, I mean the other two, I guess, are. But I mean the remakes. But we can get into the non-Joe Don Baker Svensson sequels, perhaps.
The Kevin Sorbo ones, baby. Woo!
Ooh, fuck.
But there's a pretty big list. Tennessee is not short, and like I said, there's The Client, The Firm. They're all set there as well. So I'm intrigued. Like when we return to Tennessee, I think also I'm quite interested in Will finding another kind of old school movie.
It's just going to be a musical called Tennessee.
Yeah, an old dusty movie. Yeah, I can dig something up.
There's Summersby. Yeah, there's a bunch. I'm like, but I feel like we kind of landed relatively quickly. We knew we had this really busy week, but it did end up being this sort of like interesting.
Yeah.
Like 3 movies. I think I did the right order. Start with Inherit the Wind, go into Walking Tall, end with Hustle and Flow. I regret
I don't know. I did Walking Tall first, and I think I fucking blew my load on that one, so to speak. Blew my puss out.
But then so which I think of all the movies, I think the one that we say that you most have fun, Walking Tall, the one you really should watch is Inherit the Wind, and Hustle and Flow is there if you're just looking.
Just listen to the soundtrack.
Even that. But now we have to figure out where we're going next week. Now our list is slowly getting down, but we have, by the looks at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've still got a good 16 or something states, nearly 20 states to get to. We're going to do it the very scientific way that we've been doing it. I'm going to throw my pen And whichever movie the pen lands on, we're going to end up with. I'm going to spin the paper.
I'm waiting for Joe Don Baker to grab your hand because you've got a shaved pen that's
Yeah.
cheating.
It's going to not go well for him, is how much I know.
Shit.
All right. We are pointing at, okay, interesting. Missouri.
Oh, Missouri.
Missouri. Yeah. We're going to go to Missouri. For the next one, I know nothing about Missouri. I couldn't even name a movie.
I can't even spell it.
I mean, neither can I. And no one can pronounce it because everyone says Missouri. So next week, we will be heading to the state of Missouri, which of course right now, Ryan is frantically Googling, I'm sure. What movies were made?
How to spell.
Has Missouri even had a movie yet?
Yeah.
I tell you, when we get to Delaware, it's going to get tricky. But yeah, okay, so next week we're going to be heading to Missouri. I hope you enjoyed that we took down Tennessee. There are some good movies for you to choose from. But in the meantime as well, please join in the conversation. Join in me. I do a movie every Monday. I do a video every Monday which talks about movies, which talks about our movie podcast. You can find me as That Englishman in Texas or Ollie Pettigrew on Facebook. I really enjoy when people reach out and give me great movie recommendations. You guys are fantastic in the comments. We really enjoy that. You can also find us on our Facebook page, The United States of a Movie. And we also have a subreddit that sometimes people pop in and give us great suggestions as well. Will, you can always find Will as Entitled Willennial. I would recommend following his TikTok. He does like to get into movies and he does this fun thing off the shelf where he'll very often find a random movie that you've never heard of and tell you why you should watch it. Ryan, you can find Ryan's designs as on Threadless, Etsy, things like that as Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital. He's got a lot of great movie posters, also fake movie posters and t-shirts for things that we talked about on the podcast as well, if you want to have some fun. Like I said, my favorite so far is The Adventures of Pussman, which was a prequel to Walking Tall. I think we've got to do a Walking Tall Pussman crossover movie.
Oh, we gotta.
I think I'm currently being sued by the family.
By the Poster family?
Yeah.
The surviving members of the Poster family.
For anyone that is watching on YouTube, drop a comment. Do us a favor. I will respond to them. I go looking for them as well. If you don't follow and subscribe, please do already. Recommend us to a friend. If you haven't already, if you're listening to us on your podcasting, rate us. That helps. Share again, subscribe. All those things help us as we're slowly building our little community. There's hundreds of you, but we really appreciate every single one of you. It was so much fun to do it. So yeah, get your thinking caps on for Missouri. But from me, I just want to say thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Will, as always, for joining me on the podcast. And to everybody else who's listening and watching at home, thanks for joining us for this episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast.